All right, in this lesson we're going to be looking at parabolas. Parabola is the set of all the points in a plane that are the same distance from a given point, called the focus, and a given line, the directrix. In this figure, we've got the parabola that is horizontally, that opens horizontally. It's going to open to the right. The focus is on the inside of the parabola, and the directrix, it is perpendicular to the axis of symmetry and is the same distance away from the vertex as is the focus. Here's the standard form for a parabola, where h comma k is the vertex, coordinate of the vertex. If the term that is squared, if the y is squared, then the parabola is going to open horizontally. If the x is squared, the parabola is going to open vertically. Axis of symmetry goes right down the middle of the parabola, and again the directrix is perpendicular to the axis of symmetry, same distance away from the vertex as is the focus. The general form of a parabola whenever it opens horizontally and vertically. And then we have the vertex form of a parabola. Vertex form allows us to easily identify the coordinate of the vertex. P is going to allow us to determine what the coordinate of the focus is. So P is going to be equal to 1 over 4a. The lattice rectum will be the square root of 4 times P, which is the same thing as the square root of 1 over a. The maximum or minimum value will be whatever k is. If the parabola opens horizontally, the maximum or minimum value will be whatever h is. We have another illustration of a parabola opening horizontally. You can see the lattice rectum goes through the focus and is parallel to the directrix. For this first equation, if we wanted to graph this parabola, the x is actually what is squared, so that lets us know the parabola opens vertically. So it's already written in vertex form. The vertex is actually going to be the coordinate 0, 0. And then P equals 1 over 4 times whatever a is. A is negative 1/2. 4 times negative 1/2 is negative 2. 1 divided by negative 2 is negative 1/2. And the directrix again is going to be perpendicular to the axis of symmetry. It is going to be p units away from the vertex. So if we subtract p from the y coordinate of the vertex, we get positive 1/2. So the directrix is going to be the equation y equals 1/2. Focus, we're going to actually add p to the y coordinate. And that's going to give us the coordinate 0, negative 1/2. For this equation, we're going to need to complete the square since we have that linear term. First thing we need to do is factor out a negative 1/4. To complete the square, we're going to need to add 9 inside the parentheses. So we need to multiply negative 1/4 times the 9 and add the opposite, since we're staying on the same side of the equation. Negative 1/4 times 9 is negative 9/4. So we need to add 9/4 to balance the equation. And we get the following equation written in vertex form. We can see the coordinate of the vertex is -3, -1. And again, the x is what's squared, so that lets us know the parabola opens vertically. P is going to be 1 over 4 times A. A is -1/4. So that's going to give us a P of -1. So the vertex, again, is the coordinate -3, -1. The focus is going to be -3, -2. -1 minus 1 is going to be -2. And the directrix is going to be the equation y equals 0. When we add, -1 minus -1 is going to give us that 0. Again, for this example, we need to complete the square. We can see that the y is actually going to be squared in this equation. So that lets us know the parabola opens horizontally. Alright, so we're going to divide, we're going to set the whole thing equal to x, divide everything by 3. What will complete the square is half of 13 squared, which is going to be 169 over 4. Alright, and so since we're adding 169 over 4 to the right side, we also have to subtract 169 over 4. Then divide everything by 3, and we get the equation written in vertex form. The vertex is going to be -13 over 2, 49 over 12, -49 over 12. The minimum value, since this opens horizontally, the minimum value is actually going to be the minimum value is going to be -49 over 12. P is going to be 1 over 4 times A, where A is 1/3. So P is going to be 3/4. Lattice rectum is 2B squared over A. I'm sorry, lattice rectum is going to be that absolute value of 4 times P. So that's going to give us 3. X-intercept we find by plugging in 0 for the y's and solving for x. It's going to be 10. Y-intercept we find by plugging in 0 for the x's and solving for y. And we will get 2 y-intercepts. There will be y-intercepts at -3 and -10. The next example, we're told that the vertex is the origin, so the coordinate 0, 0, and the focus is 0, 1/4. That lets us know that P is going to be 1/4. And so P equals 1 over 4 times A. So we can solve for A and determine that it is equal to 1. So we can write the equation in vertex form, y equals A times the quantity x minus h parentheses squared plus k, or y equals x squared. Now we're given the vertex and the directrix. We're going to use the directrix in order to determine what P is. So -7 is the same thing as -224 over 32. So if -223 over 32, if that is equal to the y coordinate of the vertex minus P, that means that P is equal to -1 over 32. P equals 1 over 4 times A, so we can calculate A to be -8. And now we can write the equation in vertex form. Y equals -8 times the quantity x plus 8 squared minus 7. And then for this example, we're told that the parabola opens horizontally. We're given 3 points on the parabola. We're going to use the general form and then to create the system of equations and then solve the system. Here are the three equations that we would have, plugging in the x and the y into each one of the equations in general form. So we're going to use the first and the third equation, eliminate the f's. Eliminate the f's by multiplying the top equation by -3. That will give us a two-variable equation. Now we can add that to 18d plus f equals 0. Multiply that equation by 2. And we get 6 plus 6d equals 0, so d equals -1. Now we can plug that value of d into the two-variable equation to get f equals 18. And then plug those two values into one of the three-variable equations to get e, which is 6. Now once we plug in the e, f, and d into one of the equations, we get the following equation. Group the x's and the y's together. Isolate the x on the left side of the equation. Complete the square. And we get the equation written in vertex form.